Hello and welcome to the MHG podcast. As usual, life can be a little bit miserable, life can be a little bit dark, so we're here to bring you as much light and as much joy as we possibly can. Slightly different this week as me and Stu have to record separately due to life getting in the way. So I am Bradley, and joining me via the magic of editing is Stu. How are you doing, Stu?
Thank you, past Brad. Future Stew is good.
And unfortunately, we have to start off on a bit of a somber note with this podcast, as last weekend, as of recording, news came through that former Liverpool manager, Liverpool women's manager, former Chelsea women's manager, West Ham manager, all-round great guy, Matt Beard, unfortunately took his own life. He was an amazing man, amazing person, but everyone who he touched just has nothing but positive stories about him. He made everyone's lives better, including ours. As many know, my daughter Edith is an aspiring footballer. And she met Matt Beard, told about being a footballer, and he turned around to her and said, if you continue improving, one day I will sign you, which gave her the motivation she needed. He would always have a smile for her, have a little chat with her. When she won her Goalie of the Year award, he was one of the first people she wanted to tell, and he looked like a proud father. Such was his joy for her when we had a photo of it. It was amazing to see like how proud she was, how proud he was. They had their own little in-joke regarding cupcakes, thanks to an evening at Chelsea away. Why he was still manager of Liverpool. And he was just a magical person. He seemed to have things for everyone. It wasn't just Matt Beard does this one thing for everyone. He had these niche little things with everyone he ever met, and he made everyone's lives better. Unfortunately, he never got to see the love everyone had for him, and he felt, for whatever reason, things got too much for him, and he took his own life, leaving behind a wife and 2 children. And it is an incredible loss to this world. And honestly, his lasting legacy needs to be that don't suffer in silence. Please reach out, talk to somebody, anybody. And if you know somebody, don't ever hide your feelings from them. Don't ever hide your feelings. People need to know how much they are loved, and the hole they leave when they are no longer here. So, Matt Beard, you will always be remembered, and we love you. Moving on. No pithy change or anything this week. It's just that it doesn't feel right to do. But over the last week or so, I've been a bit laid up, recovering from like my eye issues and a bit sore in my stump. So I've been playing lots of games, which is great because we've had lots of games come through and it's been an exceptionally busy period. So this week, it's just going to be a quick fire run through all the games I've been playing. There's a fair few on here that I'll be covering. We'll spend a couple of minutes on each. Stu will talk about what he's got, and again, magic of editing, he'll bring it all together. So if I say anything he wants to interject in, I'm sure he will. So, in no particular order, so this isn't this is a great game, this isn't a great game, 1 to 10 or anything. This is just the order I've got them on my screen. So starting off with Baby Steps, which is a game by Bennett Foddy, who made the excellent, if not infuriating, Getting Over It. The guy in the cauldron and the pickaxe, you got to get up a mountain. It was really well done, but it was infuriating. This is I suppose the next game in this series, if you will, baby steps. And when I first saw the trailer, it's when I went, "Oh, do you know what? This is interesting." The more I thought of it, I was like, I don't know. I don't know. It just might be a bit, yeah. But having played it, pleasantly surprised. It's you play a guy who, for whatever reason, finds himself at the bottom of an area and you need to get to the top, but you need to learn how to walk. And what I initially thought was going to be really, really awkward, sort of like a quap, but in 3D, ended up becoming something much better. It's you've got your controls, like you hold your triggers to sort of like maintain your left foot and your right foot, and you press forward to move the foot forward, and then you let go and press the other one, and the other one moves forward, and you kind of get this motion of walking, and you actually pick it up really, really quickly. And if you're walking on a straight path, you're absolutely fine. So it's not trying to be, oh, look at us, we're just making things silly. And neither does it go physics based, because the first time I came to like a little bit of rubble, a couple of stones, you trip up and you're like, okay, right, here comes the whole physics for fun. It doesn't do that at all. What you actually get is you go, oh, okay, well, I'll step over this. And you step over it, it's fine. You come to some climbing bits, and yeah, it all works. And then you do get to bits that are difficult. But what it does really well is it's not like, oh, you must follow this path or anything. You can find your own way up. You can find other routes up. And the game's intelligent enough where you can find maybe like an area where if I put my foot on here, I can then get enough momentum to get up here and things like that. It's a bit more forgiving than Getting Over It was. And it's actually a fun and enjoyable game to play. The humour in it, the interactions between characters, so far has been amusing and enjoyable. It's almost like I suppose, if you put it around, Rick and Morty style humour interaction thing that's going on there. And it doesn't great yet, and the gameplay still feels fine. I'm not at the end. And the infuriating bits you do get where it's like, oh, redo this, redo this. There is trial and error, but there's definitely like a rogue element in a way that you just like you've learned what it is. Like, I can't do that again. If I do that, I'm going to fall again. So there's a consistency to it, but it works really well. Whether I will feel the same right at the end of the game, I don't know. But this is a lot better than I ever imagined it would be. So yeah, well worth picking up. Very, very enjoyable game on the whole. Next up from me, it's a game I've actually had for weeks now, but got delayed because, amusingly enough, it got delayed because of Silksong. It was due out on the day that Silksong came out, but Silksong obviously said, "Oh, we're out next week." I think it was, and the developers behind Clover Pit went, "Well, we're moving. We're going to have to move our game," and they did. And then, unfortunately for them, their next release date coincided with the release date of the Hades 2 1.0 release. But they thankfully didn't this time delay it again.
This game is Clover Pit.
And I'm glad they didn't, because I've been playing this on and off for a number of weeks, and it deserves to live with games like Silksong. It deserves to live with games like Hades and Balatro as an alternative to those sort of games. Because you can put it on, play it for 10 minutes, move on, play something else. It's a great little break game. And it's one of those deck builder type games that isn't actually a deck builder. So you're in this horror sphere, like it's all first person, you're in this horror sphere. There's like almost like a saw jigsaw trap type thing going on. So you've got this grate beneath you, and there's loads of weird stuff going on. It's grimy looking, like PlayStation 1 textures. Really works really well. There's a slot machine, and there's basically something you need to deposit your money into. You pull the slots, you match bells, chess, cherries, pairs, all the usual stuff you see in a slot machine. You match those, you get money. And you've got basically to deposit enough money to get through a round. So it starts off really low. So you've got to deposit like 75 coins, and then you go through to the next round. But you have to also make sure you're paying coins for like to do your slots. Each round, the amount you've got to pay to do a pull goes up, but the amount you can earn goes up, and the amount you've got to deposit goes up. And it's not just I'll do that. It's like, again, I suppose with a Balatro or something like that, it is a case of making sure you get like the right charms or boons and stuff like that you can add to it. So you'll get one that might boost the amount of times cherries are seen. So you're more likely you can maybe build around cherries and they hit more often and stuff like that. Others that might go, right, if you get 3 in a row, we'll boost that. The amount of coins you can get for getting a 3 in a row, for getting a 4 in a row, a 5 in a row, a diagonal, a horizontal, or vertical, all different types of things and all these different boons you can get. Others that might go, if this happens, then this happens, and then this happens, and you get these payouts. So you build it up. And then the more you play, it adds in other little things to it. So all the bits you get that are buffs, but then there's also sort of things that can debuff. And also a mechanic where if you get a 666 within the slot machine, then you lose all your money that you've got in that slot machine. Nothing that you deposit, but in the slot machine. So you've got to really start thinking about balancing how many pulls do I want to do. Can I risk going for a free pull and get more rewards? But you're going to earn less money, or do you go for maybe doing 7? And yeah, it's great, you can earn more money, but you've got that chance where those 666 could appear and absolutely wipe you out. If you lose, you are plummeted to somewhere. If you do win, you unlock stuff and you go again. No, you never truly win. It's kind of thing. But it's really good. It's really grimy. Runs perfectly well on Steam Deck and things like that. It's just honestly, it's just a great pick up and go game. Loads to uncover. Don't want to go too much into what you can get and stuff like that. There's definitely a mystery in there as well that you can kind of follow. If you want to, or you just play it bang bang, just play it like there's no story whatsoever behind it. But really, really good and absolutely deserves its place among the big hitting indies that are releasing at the moment. So next up for me is an RPG, which again I've had for a little while. I've been playing this one on and off, and it's called Consume Me, and it's kind of like hard to describe this. It's an RPG in many ways, but it's also a life sim coming of age story. Very much focuses on the story, and it's so weird, and it's just that it's like so good to play. It's based around food and puzzles and things like that. Why it's telling a story, uh, somewhat deck buildery, but not at the same time. It's got so many different elements to it, and let's say, you play Jenny, who's basically a high schooler, and he's going through everything that you would expect a high schooler to go from, like their emotions about other people, their worries about what's going on in school, what the future holds, and things like that. And where it's set in school, like during school time and stuff like that, you've got all these different things you've got to do. And I don't want to say mini games, they're not mini games, but it's chopped up like that, all the different bits you have to do. But you kind of got to do it to a schedule as well, because you are school based, so you've got all that. And the game wants you to manage your relationships, your school life, and everything. And it's based around eating and food and things like that, and it comes together really, really well. It's a quirky game. It's an interesting game, one that I found it very difficult to, as you can tell here, to describe to somebody, but it drew me in. And whilst it's not the longest game in the world, it's one I've been playing over a couple of weeks on and off, like a few of these games that I mentioned this week. I'm just having a really good time with it. It's emotional in the right places. It's funny in the right places. I don't think the quote unquote mini games are too abrasive. They don't break things up too much. It doesn't take itself seriously, but it doesn't take itself as completely jokey either. It actually does a really good a really good sort of slice of life type thing where life isn't just serious, it isn't just funny, it isn't just this, it isn't just that. It brings together all of this in a good way. Lovely art style as well, kind of like this papercraft storybook type thing going on, with stilted animations that really work. It's kind of feels almost, I want to say it feels amateurish, but not in a detrimental way to the developer. It feels amateurish, like everything you do at school is amateurish compared to what you learn to do as you get older. So when you was a designer at school, or things like that, you might sort of like be a bit cruder with things, but as you get older, you realise like the nuances that are there. And this comes across in this game really, really well. Highly recommended if you're just after something that's a bit coming of age story, relatively easy to pick up and just enjoy. But yeah, Kajumi, another one really, really good. Next up is one I did cover last week, but my mic stopped recording, so I didn't actually get it recorded properly. I'm not even sure you can magically edit in silence. But it's called Formula Legends, and I'll cover this one quickly. It is a, a Formula One through the ages racing game that looks arcadey, and in some ways it is. It's very much a taking out a lot of the fluff that you get in a lot of modern Formula One games and things like that. And you've got basically the story mode in it, which is racing through the eras. So you get a few races in each era. So from the early 60s all the way up to modern, but taking it in like early 60s, mid 60s, late 60s, same through the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, etc. And each car, every era, the cars all race differently. They feel different, which is really, really good. Like you starting with the 60s, and you feel like you haven't got as much control of the cars. And then you race the more modern day stuff, and you feel that you can go corners a bit faster, or take more risk because of the grip they've got, and all things like that. And you're on like what I call the pro evolution of racing tracks. So one of those pro evolutions, like a fake football teams, fake or it used to be fake player names and stuff like that. These are like you go to Suzuka, you can tell it's Suzuka, but also the track is obviously slightly different. What you would know Spa from it, the Magny-Cours, you get that as well. You know all these tracks: Silverstone, Hockenheimring, Nuremberg, Nürburgring. Sorry, not Nuremberg. That's weird. You know all these tracks, but they are different to what they are in real life. The same with teams. There's fake teams with fake names, and apparently you can mod it, but there's a charm to it. And it's not just arcadey in terms of go, fly around corners. You've got to really consider braking points. The cars you're racing against are aggressive in the right way, and they will defend, they will attack, and things like that. And if you bash them, you'll send both you out flying. There's pit stops in there. It's got a really cool little pit stop mechanic. My main issue with it is when you go into a race, you get 2 laps to set a qualifying lap, and then you go into the race. I would like to have maybe each race weekend within the game to have a practice session. So rather than just doing qualifying lap, restart, qualifying lap, restart until you've learned the track, it would be nice to have an unlimited or a time limited even, like you've got 10 minutes of just going round before you can set a qualify. Just something that allows you to learn the tracks, because that's probably my biggest bugbear. Like when you first play, you'll be qualified last because you haven't quite learnt the corners properly, but the AI does know it. And then you go into a race and you're not, again, you haven't learnt the corners properly. So without to go out your way to find time trials with the right car and stuff, it'd be nice to have a practice session built in. But aside from that, it's a really good game and probably one of the better Formula One games in recent years, because it does something a bit different but still maintains what you'd expect from a Formula One game. Exciting, exhilarating, all of that. Okay, absolutely brilliant. And I've got two more for this week. First up is a game called... I've got to pronounce this right because I've got this wrong a couple of times. First up is a game called Ratatan, which is essentially the spiritual successor to Patapon. If you play Patapon, you know what it is. You get this little mini army thing, and you have to press certain button combinations in time to use it to move across the screen. Others do attacks, others do other things, and you do that. They made 3 of these games based on this. And do you know what? I liked all of them. And Patapon recently had a re-release remake thing. Yeah, it was the original games, and that's great. But missed out on a few bits that I think it could have done with some better quality of life, like things in there. But it was the games. It's fine. I'm glad we got the games out again, but offered nothing over emulating them, in all fairness. Whereas Ratatan takes the original concept, makes it modern with better quality of life in there. I would say deeper story, deeper mechanics that come together really well. And it's still that whole thing of you've got a few different buttons you press. So you're like, bang, 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 you move. Bang, 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 you move. But you've got this time bar underneath. So it's like you could look at that and go like, so bash, bash, attack, bash, bash, attack, or special, special, special. Or there's another one which is open, open, open. Each like combination of buttons pressed in time gives you a different command to do. So you might get one for dodging and things like that in there. And the better your timings, the better you are at these things. So you've got like, if you nail your attacks, like for perfect, 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 you'll do a better attack. If you don't nail them, you still attack, but not as well. So you can still move forward and things like that. What I really liked, as someone who enjoyed Patapon but got frustrated with it, that you had to be spot on almost all the time, this feels a lot more forgiving, but while still being challenging. So there were times where I think I bumbled my way through and things like that, but I still made progress. And then I went back and done the same levels that I'd already, once I got used to the mechanics, went back and done those levels and found them easy. I was nailing more of the timings and I was getting through the levels quicker and so on and so forth. And it allows you to learn what you need to do. You're not, when I first started playing, I was like looking at that bar at the bottom and concentrating on it, making sure I pressed. And then I actually found I could do it to the rhythm a bit more or without looking. And what I think this does well compared to a lot of other rhythm games is that 3-beat notion. So it's bang, 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 or bang, 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 sometimes with like 4s and stuff like that. It's so short that, you know what, if I mess up now, I've not messed up the whole thing. Whereas other games, you mess up one little bit, I'm completely out of rhythm. This, you can go, right, I've gone bang, 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 I've got that slightly wrong. And you just go, I'll just, like, you can actually stop, like, the game's going on, you can stop and they go, right, and bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. You kind of get your rhythm back yourself, and it works really, really well. This does feel like a Patapon 4 in all but name, and sort of thing you would hope that the game would iterate on. Like, if Patapon did carry on, it would iterate and actually be sort of like this level now. But again, where some of these major companies are really dropping the ball on their old franchises. So, like, Jet Set Radio never came out, so we've got Bomb Rush Cyberpunk and stuff like that. Patapon, there's no Patapon, so we've got this. it's great to see that people are picking up on the things they loved back in that era, the PSP era, and sort of bringing those games to the fore. And I can't wait to see maybe what these indie developers do next. But yeah, Ratatan, if you like Patapon, this is an absolute no-brainer. And finally, this week for me is a game which I would put right up there as one of my favourites ever, and that is Puzzle Quest. And this is Puzzle Quest Immortal, which is a new game. It's a remaster of what some would say maybe is probably like the best match-3 game. Well, I certainly would. The best match-3 game of its type. With that, Bejeweled, before it all became microtransaction, pay to win, pay to play more bullshit. You had the likes of Bejeweled, you had the likes of Puzzle Quest. And this is the original Puzzle Quest upgraded to basically high-def graphics, 4K, and a few quality of life things. And what I will say is I'm not quite sure what the quality of life things are. And yeah, I'm not quite sure what the quality of life things are because it played really well. This is what for me a remaster and re-release needs to do. It needs to keep the essence of the original while bringing it to modern standards, but without you noticing that. It needs to play like you remember. And Puzzle Quest Immortal Edition does that. Now, I dare say there are differences, there are upgrades and things like that. But essentially, it's the same game. You go off, you've got this map you've got to go through, you unlock different quests, and the quests are all essentially the same. You go through this map, you come across an enemy, and you kind of build up your mana by matching gems of certain colours, and you do damage by either using your special moves that you've earned through like your mana, or by matching skulls to do damage to your opponent, and then building something that can actually work off all of these different things. That's all there. You've got the actual sort of like, they're the battle side of the puzzles. You've got the puzzle sides to capture enemies. You've got upgrades where it's against a clock, or another one where, you want something, you want to learn a new puzzle, a new power up. And you've got to do it by going, right, you need this number yellow gems, you need this number red, green, and special gems. And you have to do that. If you run out of moves, you've got to start again, it's game over. It's got all of that to it, all your different difficulty options. It's even got, I don't know if I like this or not, but I think I do. It's even got the bullshit, where once you get to a certain point, you're facing off some characters, and usually like main quest, this comes in, where the only way I can describe it, if anyone's into snooker, you and you're coming up against Ronnie O'Sullivan, and he's let you break, and you go, yeah, okay, I'll take my break. You do a nice safe break, you're like, right, that's sound, can't do much, it was one move there, can't do anything. And then for whatever reason, Ronnie decided, right, I'm just going to go up and 147 now. And you're just sat there. The game had that bullshit in the original, and it's still there. You do overcome it. You do learn to overcome it, but there are times you sit there feeling absolutely helpless, where you go, right, there's no matching fours, which gives you a bonus go. The enemy does it, gets a lucky move, which then gives them a bonus move, and then that turns into another one, which brings a 4, a cascade of like a combo, another 4. Luckily, somehow drops the skulls in. You can do 4 skulls. It's another go, 5 of a kind, and you're sitting there going, "Well, this is fun." But at the same time, you do get to do it back. You can, when you build up and you learn how to use your stats. So every time you level up, you get skill points. You can put that into things. So your mastery of different colours, so you can put like your earth mastery, which will give you more yellow gems you can build up, fire mastery for red, that kind of thing. You've got your battle skill, which allows you more damage per like skull match and stuff like that. And there's cunning and there's morale. You pump it all into something like called morale, you get more chance of getting lucky hits and stuff like that, more chance of getting those match fours fall into place that you could do, and you start to do the things that the AI could do. And it just works really, really well. But as I said, this is an absolutely fantastic game. The original is still one of the best, and I still play the PSP version from time to time. I can finally retire it now because this is this, but then some. Yeah, just absolute modern day. And the original Puzzle Quest, and for me, Puzzle Quest 2, and I know I'll be going against the grain here, Puzzle Quest Galactrix, which changed up how you done the matching. I really liked it, others didn't. Those are the three pinnacles of the Puzzle Quest games. And then they, like the defenders said, they went down the free-to-play microtransaction bullshit, like Marvel, Puzzle Quest Marvel, whatever it was. That was a really good game, and it was a really good concept, but then it came down to just paying for packs, and it done like the bullshit part of it that you get in the original Puzzle Quest, where you can accept that you build around it, was designed purely to get you to spend money, and it was horrible. Really good game that made horrible. I think Puzzle Quest 3, and there was another one. Horrible games. But this is the complete self-contained Puzzle Quest 1 in glorious 4K, and it's absolutely wonderful. This is still the king of match-free games, over Bejeweled, over I think over Tetris Attack, which again is another of my favourites. I think this is still the absolute king because it's not just all about moving quickly. There's a thought process behind it. There's the build up of what you can do to aid yourself and so on. There's the domination side of it, the building up of the maps, all that. It brings it all together, and I don't think it's been bettered in the however many years it's been since the original, the 20 odd years since the original came out. Nothing's ever come close to this, and I'm so glad to have this available. And the best thing is, it's at the price you would imagine. It's a tenner. It's around the £10 mark. It's a no-brainer for me. I picked this up instantly. That's how absolutely one of the best games. I hope they did the same treatment to Puzzle Quest 2, because that was really good. And if they did do Puzzle Quest Galactrix, I would buy it. Others might not, but yeah, absolutely brilliant. How to do a remaster when you're happy with what was originally there. Absolutely wonderful. There are other games, but I'll save those until next week as we play catch up still. But to give you an idea, I've got the Blippo Plus still to come, the Fame game. There's Henry Halfhead in there. Into the Dead, A Darkest Days. That's really good. I'll talk about that next week. Just run out of time this week. And sort of absolutely plenty, and more to come as well. It's got to put down Hades too. Now I've started that because that's really good. But yeah, anyway, that's me. I will pass over to Stu to take us out and do his editing magic. So for me, thank you so much. Tell everyone around you love them, and that's it. Yeah, love you all. Goodbye.
So we've already gone quite long this week, so I'll probably keep it fairly short. I won't bore you to death. But we've got a couple of very interesting releases this week, one of which is the first I'll review, which is Hotel Barcelona, which I want to keep calling Hotel Babylon, which was a terrible BBC TV show from decades ago. So, God, don't remind yourself of that. But yeah, this one is by Suda51 and a guy called Swery, who, I don't know if I'm getting that pronunciation right, who also did Deadly Premonition, which I've never played and have no interest in playing. And this one's a little bit of a kind of mashup, I think, of their two talents. What it is you are a FBI or other type of investigator on the way to see a serial killer for reasons I can't remember, and you get into a car crash and you end up staying in this hotel Barcelona nearby where there is a kind of theme park full of evil serial killers, and you have to combat them. And you have the ghost of a serial killer inside you, and there's a monster in a closet who you can buy like abilities from. It's very odd. The story is actually the very best part of it by quite some considerable margin. The game itself is a beat 'em up, where side-scrolling, where you go into these different parts of this theme park type place and fight all of these monsters, enemies, zombies, and then eventually the massive boss serial killer. And it feels like a mashup of like any kind of roguelike beat 'em up you can imagine, plus Dead Rising. There's a lot of weirdness here, and incredibly the weirdness doesn't work against it, it works in its favour. So essentially, you explore these areas, side-scrolling style. Think obviously recently of like Ninja Gaiden Ragebound and Shinobi Art of Vengeance, but with a much more roguelike layer over the top of it. So you buy things in between runs and they make your abilities better, but you still have run, jump, dash, parry, block, all those sorts of things that you get in these kind of games. There's some differences though in that you can do things like deliberately nerf yourself so that you get more points and more things to spend on abilities. You have effects that you don't have control over. So there's a random one that changes your physical size, like you can be a miniature version or a gigantic version of yourself. And more weirdness besides. And as you're going through the level, there are various routes which are controlled by these doors, these mystical doors that you go through. In terms of like lore and plot, where I've played to, it doesn't hang together particularly well, but that doesn't matter. It's kind of a crash together of all sorts of these kind of mad ideas, partly about horrible, overpowered serial killers, partly about ghosts, partly about just insane structures and weird otherworldly possessed beings, and it kind of works. Unfortunately, the gameplay doesn't work. I'm saying that pretty broadly and blatantly because it just doesn't work very well. It's imprecise. The game seems to eat your inputs constantly. Even when it doesn't, the reaction times are very, very slow. You start off underpowered, and even several hours later, you won't feel like you have particularly good power. You're very, very weak to attack, so you're not even a glass cannon, you're just a glass statue. And the movement isn't precise, and it isn't entertaining. Now, you can cobble together an okay experience out of it. It would never be great, but it's okay if you can put up with all of its horrible manoeuvring foibles. But it has that thing of, because it's a roguelite, you can't just go, phew, that level's done and I'm done. No, if you don't beat the boss, you've got to keep going back and running through. And, that's my complaint with roguelites in general, is that you're essentially playing the same game over and over and over and over and over again. And you're not really relying on your skill after a certain level. You're relying on your ability to improve your stats. And good roguelites will make sure that's balanced. So just when you feel you've peaked in terms of your skill and you can't get anywhere, you'll unlock something that will allow you to be more powerful and therefore get past. But this is not one of those, and there's a lot of drudgery and dreariness. Even though it's going around these levels that are nicely designed. They're all 3D models. It's not a 2D. It's a 2D game, but it's 2.5D sort of presentation, and it looks nice. I like the idea of you being possessed. I like the idea of being able to change how you look, and that changes your character and the way that you present. There's some nice ideas in there about personality and some decent writing and scripting about how you're coping with the experience. And it does feel suitably kind of ghosty and chilling in places. It's kind of a good Halloween game in that way. But although it does all of this, ultimately everything's going to depend on the control. And not even just coming off the back of two of the greatest 2D platformers ever made in the forms of Ninja Gaiden and the new Shinobi. Even setting those aside and comparing it to something that's like lesser than those, it doesn't operate well. Now, I'm not sure how much of that is that the engine isn't suitable for this, because it doesn't run very well. It's not very well optimized, and that might have a lot to do with it. But some of it is definitely power leveling. You're definitely at a much lower state than I would like, because it's just not enjoyable to be having major battles with low tier enemies continuously. It's just not. If you can evade them, or if you can use some other abilities to get you past a situation, that's great, but sort of early to mid game, that's not prevalent either. So it's just, I don't like being harsh, but at the moment, unless it receives a lot of patching and a lot of rebalancing, it's a very, very flawed game. It's not without entertainment, because it looks pretty and it's well written, and all of the sort of Suda 51 influences are in there, and they're good. But as a game, it just doesn't work properly, and I would advise you to stay away from it, because it's just not worth it. Not when you've got so many good alternative options out there, mostly from indie devs, and mostly between a £5 and a £10. You can get it get something far superior for like $10. Under £10. Look for those, because they're definitely the options. Play the demo if you want, see what you think, but it's definitely a no from me. You couldn't have a bigger contrast with the next game that I played, and that is a Mega Drive game, but not Eartheon, and not in the style of Eartheon, which is a brand new game made contemporarily and released. Oh no, this is a game that was made in 1991 and never released. It's been picked up by the people who acquired the IP, and it's got an actual physical cartridge Mega Drive release. And that game is P47-2. Now, if you're into horizontal shooters, you'll know of P47 and its sequel P47 Aces, you might know of. Even then, if you're not into these, you might not even have heard of P47, because it's not one of the biggies of the genre. It's a World War II styled horizontal scrolling shoot 'em up, where it's kind of like the 1942 Capcom series, but instead of being a vertical shooter, it's a horizontal one. Not exactly, not by any stretch of the imagination. It's got its own quirks, foibles, differences, and it doesn't have an evade button like 1942 does. But it does have power-ups that are similar, where you gain extra ships, and you get power-ups where you're more powerful and you fire more bullets, and all of that kind of caper. And screen-filling bombs, that sort of thing. But this is a very, very strange release. I ordered mine. It had a tiny window where you could only pre-order it, and you can't order it now. It's completely lost to time. It had a window of between about the 15th of January and the 15th of February 2025 where you could order this game, pay for it, and then you'd receive a physical copy. And I did that. I completely forgot that I'd done that. And then about 3 weeks ago, got an email saying it was on its way, which was nice, because I've got no money at the moment, and so I was effectively getting a free game. No moans from me. And it rocked up, and it's beautifully presented. It's in a very sturdy, very authentic feeling case. It's got nice artwork. It's got a slipcover that's individually numbered. And to that end, my number is, hang on, let me get it. 1,901 of 3,775. So there's only been 3,775 produced in the entire world. And I got one of them, so that's pretty cool. So how does it play? It plays very well. It's a completely meat and potatoes horizontal shooter. There's nothing in there that's sort of surprising or unusual. It's from 1991, so you're never going to get kind of the genre shifts and sophistication that came along a little bit after this. And also it's running on a regular stock Mega Drive, but without the kind of vast amounts of RAM that were thrown at like the likes of Eartheon. So it looks pleasant, but not incredible. And it's a very sort of, I would describe it as a meat and potatoes shooter. So you go obviously scrolling left to right, you're shooting, you're powering up. There are sections where you're fighting other ships and you're fighting installations and all that usual thing. And there are also sections where you're in caverns and you're also evading physical structures. Very much like UN Squadron in a lot of ways, actually. There's definitely that feel of the game, which was contemporary to this. I'm not sure if it came out at exactly the same time, but it's very close. Very, very close. It's not as pretty as that game. Obviously not the arcade version, but not as pretty as the SNES version either. But it does quite well with the Mega Drive's capabilities. It's got some nice and impressive effects like deep parallax scrolling, multi-layered. It's got some very large sprites that are reasonably well animated considering the amount of RAM being used. There's some good touches with water effects, like little tiny spray effects when you shoot into the surface of the water, and some good explosions as well. It's not up there with Thunder Force Spore in terms of quality of visuals or variety of visuals, but it's solid, it's pleasant. There's a couple of issues with slowdown, so not just classic kind of, there's a very big boss on the screen and a lot of slowdown, so that you can kind of adapt to the slower frame rate while you're fighting it. More like little flashes of slowdown, which can lead to deaths, which is a bit unfortunate really, because 1 minute you're controlling your ship at one speed and the next it's another, and then it switches back depending on how much is on the screen at one point. So that can be a bit distracting and can cost you a life, which obviously isn't ideal. So that's a bit disappointing. Other than that, it's very solid, it's decent fun, it's not exceptional, and it's far from average. It's not an average game, it's a very interesting and fun game. Not too long, not too difficult. There are difficulty levels involved, and I've been playing on normal and got right to the final boss on a single credit, so it's not a difficult game by any stretch of the imagination, at least at its default setting. But it's good. Should you? The only question, obviously, you can't play it unless there's somebody stripped the ROM and stuck it up online, which I've not looked at, but I'm assuming somebody will. Obviously, playing that would be illegal and not necessarily fair on the producers because they wouldn't receive any money from it. But if in some way that you get hold of the game, it's worth playing. Is it worth buying on the aftermarket? Only if you're a collector. Only if you're really into the Mega Drive. It is a lovely addition. It's very nicely presented in the box. You get a soundtrack CD with it, which is quite a retro throwback as well. And you also get, the cartridge itself is nice. It's a translucent black that you can only just see through, but the PCB within it, there's a little gold decal of a fighter plane within it as well. So it's a very, very nicely presented package. So if you want that on your shelf and you're a fan of the Mega Drive and you want to own it and miss the window, then go for it on the aftermarket. Otherwise, I'd say it's a curio, and unless you're a completist or an absolute rabid horizontal shooter fan, you probably can live without it. But that said, it's still a good game. Sorry for the poor audio quality towards the end there. I had some microphone issues that I didn't spot until I'd finished recording. Ignoring all that, hopefully next week we'll be recording back together again and it'll be the normal format, but thanks for being with us. As usual, follow us on all the socials, make sure you're checking out our content on the website, join us on Discord if you wish to chat, and until next week, stay safe and stay sane.